Whether you consider Kinsale to be the beginning or the end of the Wild Atlantic Way, it is a terrific spot to add to your itinerary. In today's podcast, we are venturing to Kinsale in County Cork. Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining me again here on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. Today I am really excited to talk to Clodagh FitzGerald. Now, Clodagh has been a tour guide in Ireland for over 30 years. She's often hired by those larger tour companies that I'm sure you've heard of as a guide with them, and she also leads small bespoke tours. So I am really excited to get Clodagh's insights today into an area of the country that she knows and loves very well and calls her home. So Clodagh, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
More than welcome. Coming from a sunny Kinsale in County Cork, for once, the weather gods have smiled on us. But Kinsale, I am lucky enough to call home. And some of you may be familiar that Kinsale is known as the gourmet capital of Ireland. So I'm going to say the big capital is in our house. Even though I don't do most of the cooking, but no, you have any number of superb restaurants on our doorstep. So Kinsale is very often referred to as a must-see on an itinerary, Jodie. I'm sure you're aware of that. And I am here to say that is absolutely the case.
And you know, you say that, and I think that is so true. I think a lot of people hear that they need to visit Kinsale, but they're not quite sure why. And so I really can't wait to dig into all the beauty and history and food, obviously, that Kinsale has to offer, as well as some of the surrounding areas, because Kinsale is right there, just kind of south of Cork City, right along the coastline. And it's kind of that tail end or beginning, depending on how you attack the Wild Atlantic Way.
Well, we would always say the beginning. But then you could also say you saved the best to last. So there are two sides to every story. But yes, Kinsale is fabulous because we are about 20 minutes drive from Cork City. We are also about 25, 30 minutes from, we're going to call it the real capital. I probably shouldn't, but
it's a phrase you hear often.
Yes, indeed. So it's very, very accessible. And whilst it is very, very well known, it is very popular as a Sunday day trip destination, even for Irish people. And what an awful lot of people make a mistake in doing is they'll say they'll go to a place and then they don't leave enough time, because they get here and they say, oh, I only have an afternoon. I wish I had more time. Because for such a small coastal village, it really does punch above its weight. For a start, I suppose, from a historical point of view, Kinsale would have originally, many, many years ago, would have been a former royal shipyard. And that accolade then went to Cove in East Cork. But the harbour in Kinsale is just gorgeous. Mm-hmm. You have two historic forts, one that faces each other from, two different opposing headlands. So you have Charles Fort, which is a really, really beautiful star-shaped fort. And in true Irish fashion, I think I'm allowed to say this because I'm Irish, it has a 100% failure rate. Can you believe that? And because of our situation right there on the Atlantic, it was built with the intention of being attacked by sea. So had it been attacked by sea, the fortress would have been impregnable. But unfortunately, it was attacked by land and they were sitting ducks. So, it is a fabulous visit. So Charles Fort would be one place you should. Absolutely.
It is stunning. Now, do you want to mention why? Because I thought that was probably one of the best stories when I visited Kinsale and Charles Fort was to why it was just absolutely worthless in a ground attack.
It was worthless in a ground attack because A, it's situated right out on the headland, but B, it's kind of down in a hollow. So they had nowhere to go. They had nowhere to go. And, I call it a bums away wall, which is kind of, the way one of those walls you look out over.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And when you go into the fort, there's nothing else on the other side. It's water. So they had nowhere to go. They were sitting ducks, unfortunately. And
but it's a great fort to tour. It's really, really well restored and maintained.
Yeah. And the OPW, even here, for your guests, if they're here on, is it the first or second Thursday of every month, there's free admission into all of these OPW properties. So you can go in around them. And you can also go in around the whole area of Charles Fort without actually going in to visit. There would be, on a total aside, this is one of the perfect places to go swimming. In Kinsale, Sallyport, just down by Charles Fort. And then you can tie in that visit with a walk from Charles Fort that will bring you all the way down to the boatyard. And that's on a little coastal path. And it is heaven.
Charming path.
Heaven. So walks would be in abundance. The other side, facing Charles Fort, you have James Fort, which is up on the opposing headland. And again, if you look from, our maritime history, what they used to all those years ago, they used to have a chain that would go from one side of the harbour to the other. So if there were any kind of, unwelcome neighbours coming in vessels, they'd pull this chain and that would stop them getting into the harbour. So fab. So again, another walk up around James Fort. That is also open. And during the summer months, it's there for, you can have guided tours around it. Traditionally, it is locked a lot of the time, but you just need to know the right person. And sometimes that means asking them in the dock bar, do they have a key to the door? So it's, these are things that if you're around and you're here, you get in on and you kind of, you get used to. So those are two major forts. I suppose, again, sticking with the maritime theme, I'm sure some of your guests will be familiar with the Lusitania. And the Lusitania was torpedoed by a German submarine on the 7th of May, 1915, 12 miles off the old head of Kinsale. So there is now a Lusitania museum that is out at the signal tower out near the old head. They have also recently opened up a fabulous little cafe, so you can get your coffee to go and your cake. And in fact, the museum in the heart of the town in Kinsale has some fabulous information all about the Lusitania. And again, you can go in and have a little wander around. It's, it's kind of like a small city. I'm allowed to say that, I suppose, because I'm a little bit biased, but there is so much to do in Kinsale. You have your history, you have your scenery, you have the sea, you have any number of different walks. You can choose your restaurants. And, there's loads of retail therapy. I know I'm probably not supposed to be saying that, but retail therapy is the cheapest form of therapy. I keep telling my husband. But some really nice stores. Boutique style shops. So you'd have Granny's Bottom Drawer, you have Cronin's, you have the Canvas Works, you have Giles Norman Photography. Anything that takes your fancy, it's all there in Kinsale. Fabulous little shoe shop. And the characters you will always meet. Somebody is always ready to stop and say hello or have a chat. Coffee is a big thing here, lots of little cafes. And it's Kinsale just kind of makes your heart smile. It makes your heart smile. we have any number of festivals that run throughout the year. I'm going to pick one this year. I'm going to say the Arts Week. Now, the Arts Week runs normally in the month of July, and there's art in windows. There's exhibitions for kids. There's shows. Really, really interactive, and it's a real buzz about the town.
Mhm.
Is probably the best way of putting it. There is so much to do. Ice cream on a rainy day in Kinsale. Nothing like it. And do you know what? I suppose can't not mention our pubs. There is a lovely pub culture. There's also, again, if I tie it back to history, Alexander Selkirk and Robinson Crusoe.
Mhm.
There is a connection with Kinsale. So we have a restaurant called the Man Friday for obvious reasons. Apparently he had a drink in the Market Bar. Now, Market Bar, maybe as it were, or as it was many, many years ago, not in its current situation, but lots of lovely little pubs. A lot of them offer food. And you know what? There's a lovely atmosphere in the summer. You're sitting outdoors. There's heaters. Okay, now we're kind of hardy, I suppose. We don't have the same weather you guys are used to during summer months, but it is. There's just a lovely, really easygoing atmosphere. Any number of restaurants that you could pick and choose from. If I were to give you my favorites, I would have to say the Supper Club, which is real kind of, they make their own handmade cocktails. It's all, there's just a lovely feel. The food is excellent. The staff are really friendly. Likewise, Crew would be another one. An excellent wine menu. Now, I'm allowed to say excellent wine menu because I don't drink wine. So there is no bias here in any shape or form. But Colin Ryan, the guy who owns it, is really, he's a really good connoisseur of wine. So there's always something to go with your plate. Fishy, I'm sure you probably will have heard of Martin Shanahan. And Finn's Table, John and Julie Finn, another fabulous location. But it is, you have to spend time here to kind of absorb it. And it's almost, if you spend a few days in Kinsale, it's like the fine sand of our beaches kind of silts into your veins. That sort of thing. It grows on you. Yeah, ask me questions. What else do you think people want to know?
So I remember during our visit, we did stay about 3 days in Kinsale. And one of my favorite memories was, so right there by the marina or by the harbor, is Dino's Fish and Chips.
It's still there.
And number one, I remember their garlic mayonnaise because it was just exceptional. But really, one of the best memories, it was my girls and I, and we grabbed fish and chips, and we just went and sat down by the water, and we ate, and we just enjoyed watching the boats go in and out, and the people walking by. And it was one of those perfect Irish evenings where nothing was in a hurry, and you were just there. You were part of it. You were in no rush. You were open to whatever was going to happen. And I think that memory more than anything kind of sticks with me because it just felt good to be, if that makes sense.
It does, because, I could be here on any given day and I might say to anybody in the house, oh, I'm going down the town, I'll be back in 5 minutes. And they go, yeah, right. Because by the time I have walked from my house, I mean, I look down on the town. So By the time I walked the 5 minutes, I could have been stopped by 3 or 4 different people, and there's a chat. And that's what's lovely. There's a huge sense of community here. Everybody has time for everybody. And, you know, in the normal sense of the word, it is a tourist town. It is for Irish, for, you know, foreigners, people who come from far and wide. But that's what the town survives on. So it is our bread and butter. And for that reason, I suppose guests or visitors are looked on in a kind of a very positive light. Any number of places for you to stay, like say, for example, Anne and Pat Hegarty in the Pier House B&B, which would be right next to Dino's fish and chip place. Now, that kind of doesn't sound like a great introduction to the Pier House, but it's like a little secret garden. It's like an oasis in the center of town because you're right in the heart of it. Absolutely fabulous. You have the likes of the Giles Norman Townhouse. Giles Norman, for those of you who are not familiar, is a very, very well-known photographer that deals in black and white photography, and they have a townhouse that is serviced and obviously furnished. You'll think you've died and gone to heaven in all these rooms, and you're looking out over the harbour. So, you know, every budget can be accommodated in Kinsale, whether it's high end, whether it's budget, whether it's B&B, whether it's hotels. You know, the cafes, the Lemon Leaf Cafe.
So good.
It is so good, but they are, and Tracy is actually, you know, a girl I shared a house with in college. So that's how long we go back. But they are currently upgrading. So it's going to kind of be a kind of a bar, bistro, and a kind of a hotel style guest house. So you have any number of options. And you see, the thing is, Jody, is we have 2 amazing bookstores. Now, amazing bookstores. You could go in there and not come out. But I suppose books have to be your thing for that to happen. But really, you can there's a fabulous little guided walk around the town. They go from the tourist office.
I've done that one. It's really good. And it's terrific for families.
And the kids love it. And, you know, David Peer also does a ghost walk. And that ghost walk goes from the Tap Tavern. And I can remember many, many years ago when my own children were very small, I said to my husband, come on, we'll bring them on the ghost walk. And he went, no. He said, why would we do that? I said, come on. Do you know what? Now's our excuse. We can do it with the children, even though you might want to do it yourself. So we went and, you know, but they have actors in this walking tour, and you're going around to all the various different. So you're going to Desmond Castle, which was it was a jail. It's also a museum of wine. You know, the wild geese, all of that sort of stuff. And these pirates hop out, and they have kind of, you know, smoking scabbards, and, you know, and the kids are all, you know, oh, the excitement. And then halfway up by the convent, when you're going up by the old walls of the town, he stopped to, you know, tell some part of history, and this fella jumped out of a bin, like a wheelie bin, but it was all part of it. So they're all planted. The kids love it. They really do. They love it. So there's you can hire bikes. You can now hire canoes, paddles on any given day during the summer month. The Kinsale OEC, which is the outdoor education centre, you can see them out in the water in their, you know, the little sailboats, or you can do stand-up paddle boarding. They do windsurfing lessons. You really could just come and use Kinsale as your base and kind of head out to Clonakilty and Skibbereen and over to Cove, or use Kinsale as your base and go to Castle Townsend and go out on one of the whaling boats in the hope that you're going to see some whales and dolphins. Fab.
That's excellent. I was actually just going to ask about using Kinsale as a base and the things that you can do, because not only can you do these things along the coast, but you're really not that far from Cork City. You're
No.
not that far from Blarney Castle, if that's on your to-do list. And then you have that beautiful stretch of the Wild Atlantic Way that, I mean, you're kind of darting in and out of coves and all these little villages and everything. So if people were to spend, let's say, 3 days in Kinsale,
Okay.
where would you say they might want to consider visiting? You'll need a car to reach some of these recommended destinations, so I'm excited to partner with irishcarrentals.com to provide an unbeatable quote on your car rental in Ireland. Be sure to use code IFV for Ireland Family Vacations in the promotions box to save an extra 10%. Now, here come those recommended destinations.
Okay. I would say they will probably spend the first day and first evening acquainting themselves with Kinsale, or using the kind of late afternoon, evening of each evening once they get back to kind of get to know Kinsale. I would say you need to do an afternoon in Cork City. There's a fabulous, the English food market, Cork City. It's fab. It really is. Sorry, you can see where the line of my thinking goes, can't you? It's all to do with food. Cork City Jail is fabulous. You can go up to Shandon Bells. You can do any number of different walks in around the city. They have a fabulous art trail. And your useless bit of information, I'm known for my useless bits of information. Cork has, I think it's now 30 bridges. So it's like Ireland's version of Venice. It kind of crisscrosses because the river actually splits into two channels. So that would be one. So you could do Cork. I would then probably do Cove, that you can go and visit our version of Alcatraz, which would be Spike Island. Fabulous, that you go out on a tiny little ferry and you visit you visit the fort out on Spike Island that was used as a prison. And of course, you can do the Cove Heritage Centre visit, which does the whole story of immigration. It does the whole story of the most famous ship in the world, of course, the Titanic, which left Cove in April 1912, if my memory serves me correctly. But, and you know, there's some really, really cool things in that visitor centre. There's, I don't know whether this is a spoiler alert, but memorabilia from this young man by the name of Jeremiah Burke, who left Cork on the Titanic. And about a year after the demise of the Titanic, a message in a bottle washed up about 2 miles downshore of Cork Harbour. And the message in the bottle was, "Farewell from Titanic, Jeremiah Burke." And his mother identified it as the bottle she had given him, full of holy water. So it kind of makes the hairs stand up on the back of your head in a big way. Now, actually, do you know what? I'd be murdered if I don't mention this. Golf. Oh my God, you can't come to Kinsale and not golf. You can't come to Kinsale and not golf. Most people will be familiar with the Old Head of Kinsale. It is a private members club. Absolutely amazing. I have played it on quite a few occasions, I have to say. But golfers amongst you will probably refer to it as Pebble Beach on steroids, because 12 of the 18 holes look out over the water. So you have cliffs, you have hazards, you know, it's amazing. And you can get green fees without being a member, so that's not an issue. So that would be quite, whereas for regular 18 holes, you'd probably be allowing 4.5 hours. I'd be allowing the whole day at the Old Head. So if you were golfers And if it's, I'm not saying the men want to golf and the women want to shop, but if it's just the men want to golf, we can arrange that we get them out to the Old Head and then the women do something else. So it's that's another really big it's a really big tick. I mean, a lot of people want to come and play the Old Head. So I mean, you'd be with the likes of Tiger Woods, Bill Clinton, who's who of glitterati have all played out in the Old Head. So that's golf. But then I would also say, you see, West Cork, you can head to, I'm just kind of thinking in my mind here, you can head from Kinsale, go to Bandon, go down to Clonakilty. Clonakilty is another fabulous little town. You could see there's a museum there from Michael Collins, fabulous little museum from Michael Collins, some lovely, really cool shops. You could go to Inshadani. These are all within an hour of Kinsale. So you can kind of potter out and about. Depending on the time of year, you can also, there's loads of coastal walks. You can organize picnics and, just be gone for the day. It really is. It would really, I suppose, depend on what your interests are, whether you want to be out and about and in nature, or whether you want to be going, seeing, and in places. Obviously, you have Blarney. So you have Blarney Castle. That would be 45 minutes from Kinsale. And do you know what? I think the most important part in anybody's holiday, if I've learned anything in the last year, is that don't plan everything.
Yeah.
Just don't plan everything, because look what happens. It's, and sometimes the things you don't plan end up being the best parts of your holiday, whether it's the fish and chips in the rain, in the car park, where you end up speaking to the people, who've got soaked coming home, and you meet them in the pub that night for, a few drinks. That kind of thing is actually, it's, it just evolves. You have to allow the magic to happen as well. If you've everything planned to the nth degree.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can plan and plan and plan, but you're not going to see everything. So give yourself the time to enjoy where you are while you're there.
Oh, absolutely. And swimming. I'm a swimmer, so I swim year round. I've had my swim today. You could spend a whole week in around Kinsale looking for different places to go swimming. So it's, the world is your oyster. There's horse riding here. The list is as long as you want it to be, or as short as you want it to be. And it's quality sometimes, not quantity.
Very true.
You just need to, I suppose, best way of describing it, Jodie, you'll appreciate this. You can have all the plans in the world. And if you get up tomorrow and it's pouring rain, you're not going to want to go walk out around here, there, wherever. Whereas if you get up tomorrow and the sun is splitting the stones, you actually probably just want to go and sit on the beach.
Yeah.
So you have to allow for that to happen.
Very true. Excellent advice. Now, Clodagh, as I said at the very beginning, you have been a tour guide for over 30 years. Some of the largest tour companies that come to Ireland actually hire you as a guide. So you know Ireland back and forth, in and out, up and down, east to west. If somebody is planning their Ireland itinerary, what are 3 places that you think they should really consider adding to that itinerary? Kind of the spots that you would say they should search out. And they don't have to be well known, they can be, but where do you think people should definitely consider adding to their itinerary?
I think more than anything, I think you need to go off the beaten track. Now, off the beaten track can still be a very well-known location. It can still be very popular, but it probably will be, or will require a little bit more planning on your part. So for me, one of those would be the Blaskets. Blasket Moor, just off the Dingle Peninsula there, you can get a ferry from Dingle and you can go out for the day, or you can get a ferry out and you can book one of the cottages and stay there overnight. And the Blaskets, for the uninitiated, were home to Peg Sayers. And Peg Sayers was on the high school honors Irish syllabus as an autobiography that you just went through torture to have to study. And it's probably because of this woman that the island is famous, but it is amazing. All in capital letters. Another island, I have to say, is going to draw my soul again, and that would be the Skelligs. And again, that's down, you would go down to, oh my goodness, I've forgotten the name of the village. Where do you go down to get the ferry?
Oh goodness.
Port Magee. And you can go out on a ferry. It takes about an hour and a half to go out on the ferry, and there's commentary the whole way. It is weather dependent as to whether you get onto the island, but you can see an amazing, oh my God, it really is, it's unbelievable. You see the gannet colonies, you see puffins, all of that sort of stuff. But do you know what? You're either into boats and water or you're not. As you probably guess, I'm into boats and water. So let's do one that has nothing to do with boats.
But before we go on to that, the Skelligs are one of those places, and obviously, you know, Star Wars made them even more popular. There are limited numbers of boats that can go out to the Skelligs.
Yes.
It is weather dependent.
Yes.
You do not want to just give yourself one day just in case the weather cancels you, and you definitely want to go out. But also, that is not necessarily safe for everyone.
No, I would agree. Now, here's your sister, because even though I absolutely wanted to see it, it is 700 feet above sea level. There are no handrails. There is no safety net. And dare I say, I went up on my hands and knees and I came down on my bum.
Well, there's at least one helicopter rescue on that island a year, at least.
Terrifying is the word. So, you know,
not for kids.
Well, I won't say not
for young kids.
Not for young kids, but there were young children there. And I was there going, oh my God, those parents need to be certified.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that I've always wanted to do, and I think everybody should see once, but it is, you know, it's not unheard of that people will go, they'll get off, and they won't go up to the very top. Which in many senses kind of defeats it. So for that reason, I would do the boat trip around and come back in again. Okay. But the other, so probably not the best choice of mine, but look, do you know what? So be it. The other, I would say that I think everybody will, well, maybe not everybody. I love the Gara. I don't know if you're familiar with the Gara. The Gara is about 2 miles outside of Macroom in County Cork. And what it is it's a submerged glacial woodland. Now, seeing is believing. It's actually a nature reserve. It's a wildlife sanctuary. It has, you know, global status of being an area of outstanding natural beauty and conservationists and all that sort of stuff. But what you actually see are the roots of the very last remaining natural oak forest. And they kind of peep up out of the water as the tide comes and goes. It is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So again, if you're a walker, a hiker, a photographer, if you have kids that you just want to let run wild and, pick up, gooey bits out of the mud on the path, it really is something else. But you could spend the whole day there with the camera. And the only people you're going to have are yourselves for company, which I think is actually kind of nice.
Definitely
So,
a place that people probably aren't getting to.
No, because they're driving by it on the way to somewhere else. They might see a signpost for it. They might see, or they might just look at the other side of the road, because if your head is turned to the left as opposed to the right, you miss it. Everybody will have heard of Gougane Barra, but it's on the way to Gougane Barra. So they wouldn't see the Garra necessarily. But, I'm only, I suppose, concentrating at the moment on Cork. I mean, there are any number of places all over the island of Ireland that, we could be here till the middle of next week and we still would have only tipped the iceberg. But Ireland it's magic. It is just magic. It really is. And do you know what? Whenever you can get here, make sure you do, because it's waiting.
That's so true. I don't think there are any truer words that can be spoken. Ireland is a place that it definitely, I don't know, it for me, it was like a homecoming, but I know even for people who may have no connection to Ireland, family, genealogy, there's, like you said, it is magic. It's the green of the grass, it's the blue of the ocean, it's the pounding of the waves, even on a wet and rainy day, there's something about Ireland.
Yeah, and it's, an awful lot of people think the weather, it's cold, and I'm there going, well, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's inappropriate clothing. Just, dress accordingly. You'll be familiar with this, Jodie, but you can have 4 seasons in one day. You really, really can. That is not a joke. So if you don't like the weather, go and have a cup of coffee, and by the time you come out, it may well have changed. But, start with a t-shirt and maybe have a sweatshirt and a light jacket and, maybe a baseball cap or a woolly beanie hat. It's you're going to use them. Maybe use them more than I would, but yeah.
I don't know. One of my favorite times to visit is in January, because it is so much warmer there than it is where I live.
Yeah.
It's usually a good 20 to 30 degrees warmer. There are very few people. It's a perfect time to visit the cities. But you don't go to Ireland for the weather. You don't go for the sun and the beach. You go for the beauty and the history and that magic that just, it comes out of the ground.
Exactly. And if you're looking at times of the year to come, I know you've not asked me, but I'm going to volunteer my little speak on it. Is I would be saying April and September, or March, April, September, October, because you've less people around. There's, children or kids are in school. It's easy to get around. Everything has changed for us as it has for everybody else. So who knows what it's going to be like going forward. But you will have to allow an extra amount of time, to make sure that you can get in places, get out, get around, But I'm glad I live here. I'm glad I'm Irish. I'm very, very proud to fly little flag. Yeah, so whenever you can, make sure you get here.
Exactly. And you know, that what you just said is exactly why my tours are in September. I always do a tour in September because the weather is still beautiful, the crowds are smaller. Yeah, it is my favorite, you know.
You get your Indian summer. You get sometimes, and you know, this is another thing Irish people tend to say is, you know, we really only get the summer holidays when the children go back to school. That's when we get the good weather. Because invariably, you know, for the month of September, you do get really good weather.
Yep.
And it does help. It doesn't make a holiday, but it helps a holiday. So
very true.
I had the best homegrown tan last year. I don't know that I've ever had a suntan like it, unless I have another one this year. But it's it's ask me anything.
So Clodagh, I know that that you have loads and loads of advice to give. I know you have an Instagram account that people can find you on, and I will link that in the show notes. If people have questions about visiting Ireland, or they're maybe looking to have just you know, a private guide while they're down, maybe in Kinsale, or do a small group tour with you, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I would say initially on Instagram, and once they make contact me, I don't have a website, and I keep saying I'll get a website, but you know what, I'm Irish. That's tomorrow's job, and tomorrow hasn't come as yet, but it's I do this, Jody, because I enjoy doing it, not because I have to do it. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. So it is one-on-one, it is very personal, and it is tailored to whatever you want to do. It's not what I want to do or what I want to show you. So by all means, I mean, connect with me on Instagram and we can take it from there. And I can then get you an email and get in touch with you, or you can get in touch with me, and we'll see where it goes. I mean, we have, between myself, my husband, and a very, very good friend of mine, we have 2 vehicles, about to be 3, but we have a Mercedes Viano that accommodates 2, 4, 6 probably comfortably, and a Mercedes, not a Mercedes, a BMW X5 that would take 2 really comfortably, 4 generally. But so your driver is your guide and your driver, and your we're your direct line to Ireland.
So you'll be able to find Clodagh on Instagram at Clodagh's Travel Tales. Again, that will be linked in the show notes, as will links to pretty much everything we talked about, because Clodagh is full of amazing tips, and you can reach out to her on Instagram and ask your questions, or see if you might be able to set up a tour with her, either of the whole of Ireland or just of her little corner. Clodagh, I want to thank you so much for all of your information, for taking the time to share it with us today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. There will be a whiskey in a glass waiting for you in Kinsale, Jody, when you get here.
I cannot wait. Wow, there was so much amazing information in this podcast episode. And as always, if there's anything you want to check in on, be sure to go to the show notes and head over to the website for all the links and information. If you enjoyed the podcast, leave a 5-star review at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Android. And as always, if you have any questions, you can email me directly, jody@irelandfamilyvacations.com. Until next time, slán go fóill.